This weather has the potential to produce some heavy snow along with colder air, especially for the eastern side of the U.S. between now and Sunday, and then a big warm up heading into next week. And we'll be watching for severe storms coming back into the picture further south. So let's take a look at the overall setup on the temperature anomalies this morning for your Wednesday, December the 18th. And there's another colder shot of air coming down the pike from Canada that will likely extend and pull that colder air into the north central U.S., down into the Great Lakes, through the Ohio Valley, and getting into the mid-Atlantic as well as into the Northeast. And then we'll kind of moderate further south heading into this weekend, but bring those colder anomalies all the way down into the deep south, actually bringing yet another freeze for those areas coming up by this weekend. So if you're new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel. And I would love to reach 250,000 subscribers by the end of the month. And you can help me get there by subscribing to the channel and following all my daily content. So here's the setup this morning as far as the temperatures go. The wind chills are bone chilling cold, and you can see that next piece of colder air definitely coming in, checking in at 20 below zero feels like it's up there in the Dakotas and portions of Minnesota. Of course, it will kind of moderate further south it gets, but nonetheless, you're still going to be feeling the chill in a big way throughout the coming days, especially live along into the north. But further south, you can definitely see the temperature gradient from the feels like 60s further off into the southeast and the 30s. That's the sharp gradient with that cold front. And along this cold front, that's where you're likely producing some showers and thunderstorms this morning. There were some storms that moved through Dallas overnight. Now that shifted into the eastern portions of Texas. And with this band, these are packing some strong storms within this zone of Arkansas, back into western Tennessee, getting into the western areas of Kentucky, through Virginia, as well as into Ohio, further off to the northwest through Calgary and down towards Edmonton. This is snow, and this would likely be the start of your next setup, a swath of snow that's going to come down the pike heading into tomorrow time frame, especially for those areas through the Dakotas, back through Minnesota, into Wisconsin, down here into northern Illinois, through the Great Lakes into Michigan. And eventually, as we head through Friday and into this weekend, it'll head into the portions of the mid-Atlantic and getting into areas of New England. And here's your latest swath of snow coming from the National Weather Service. So yes, this area will likely extend from North Dakota down through the Twin Cities, as well as portions of Chicago, down here through Grand Rapids, getting into the Detroit region, northern areas of Ohio, and then right in the middle, that's kind of your bullseye, if you will, in this blue zone. That's when you start to see the more favored higher totals, even some heavier snows, especially through Fargo, back here to Duluth, getting into Minneapolis region, as well as into the Green Bay region. So the latest update from the HRRR, your high resolution guidance, actually paints a pretty good swath of heavy snow, a good 8 inches, if you will, in the purple shaded area extending from that Edmonton region, going through the Dakotas, down through Fargo, areas of Minneapolis, as well as getting into areas of, get into Wisconsin, and likely extending into portions of Michigan between now and Friday morning. And then as we head into Friday morning, into Friday afternoon, that same complex will now be highlighted over the Great Lakes, dumping some more snow into areas of Wisconsin, back into further south northern portions of Indiana, getting into Ohio, areas of eastern Kentucky, West Virginia, portions of Pennsylvania, as well as into New York State. And then as this low pressure center forms off the coast and lifts northward, we're going to be producing more snow showers along its wake, likely in the interior regions of New England, as this low pressure center will continue to lift up to the northeast. This is your Saturday morning. And on the backside, you can see the northwest flow. That's the indication of more colder air coming in from Canada, and you're definitely going to be feeling like it, especially as we head into Sunday morning. Your December 22nd time frame feels like still below zero for a good part of the north central U.S., down here through Wisconsin, getting into Michigan. Yes, that's New York State, well below, feels like, up here into Sunday morning through Vermont and New Hampshire, going into Maine. So you're definitely going to be feeling the chill, if you will, between now and the next 5 days. And of course, moderated somewhat further south, but nonetheless, you're feeling like a freeze further south into the southeast heading into your Sunday time frame. And that's likely going to be transition day, because between now and the next 5 days, you're going to continue to remain on the warmer side, at least for this December standards, with warmer anomalies still painting a picture for much of the west and western regions and portions of the central U.S., while much of the cooler anomalies continue to dive into the eastern side of the U.S., with the coldest anomalies highlighted over the mid-Atlantic as well as into New England. But this will be likely the last hurrah, if you will, of the coolness for December, as we're going to be starting to warm up in a big way for your Christmas week heading into your New Year's. Really, because of this Pacific jet stream well out of the Pacific. This is your Pacific jet extension. Whenever you see like something like this, that's actually traversing over this warm blob out here into the North Pacific and dumping some of those higher warmth into areas of the West. And that will likely get this enough to push those warmer anomalies, not just extending more into the western regions, but now encompassing pretty much the entire lower 48 as you head into your Christmas week. That jet extension has to go over this warm blob. This is your North Pacific oscillation out here in the Pacific. Plus, you've also noticed these cold fronts in the month of December, they've been going more or less northwest to southeast. So you can see, based on the overall temperature anomalies in the oceans, where these cold fronts have lied, and they've mainly been pushing east, and that's where most of the colder weather has been. That's why we're seeing below average temperatures off the east coast here. But notice you're above average in the Gulf of Mexico, because much of these areas further south hasn't actually cleared Texas. They've been stalling before they've gotten to the Gulf of Mexico and lifted back up as a warm front. That's going to be a key player, not just the warm blob heading in the next week with that jet extension, pushing those warmer anomalies for a good all of the lower 48, but also when we have a significant dip in the jet stream, it's going to tap into these open sources of the Gulf of Mexico with ample amount of moisture coming back into picture. Yes, that could set the stage for severe storms as we head likely towards the day after Christmas time frame. So going into Christmas Eve, we'll start to see those temperatures moderate, if you will. You'll still be below average, but definitely not as cool as you were, but going into the next 5 days. But all eyes will be trending out west, with a significant storm building out the west coast down to a 972 millibar, another mid-latitude cyclone building off the west coast. That'll dump a lot of heavy rains, especially along the west coast, and some fairly intense winds as well. So this whole area from your Christmas, the day after Christmas, the 27th, maybe the 28th time frame, will be very windy for those areas across the Pacific Northwest, getting into the southwestern states, into the Intermountain West, as well as into portions of the Rockies, as the big warm-up will likely take over by the time we head into Christmas. And your cool down is still trying to hang on for dear life. But eventually, going into the days after Christmas, all of the entire 48 will starting to feel the warmth. So we're going to be saying goodbye to, unfortunately, a very mild Christmas ahead for much of the lower 48. But that doesn't mean, even for those western regions, but just because you see red, it's not going to be able to snow anywhere. Because typically, even for this time of year, it's still cold, and it's still cold enough to snow even if you are above average up here in Denver. So that red, this is what it looks like on the temperature map. You're still right at the freezing mark in and around Denver, but you get into these mountain ranges, you're in the teens, and believe it or not, this is technically above average for this time of year. And with that moisture supply coming back off the West Coast, that's actually going to bring some more heavy snows for the Intermountain West regions, especially back into the Rockies. I know you got crushed in the month of December with some two big systems, but you've kind of had a lull as of late over the last couple of weeks. You really haven't had next to anything, but that's going to come back with a vengeance, with more heavy snow coming back in the picture for Idaho, back into Nevada, getting into Utah, those areas into Wyoming, and the mountains of Colorado should get crushed with heavy amounts of snow. And for the middle part of the country, we'll be concerned about a massive dip in the jet stream, and this bowling ball type trough, if you will be starting to dig down here into the areas of the southeast. And that is definitely concerning, as this system will likely kind of go negatively tilted, tapping into those untapped waters into the Gulf of Mexico. That could spell trouble with ample amount of moisture, especially with these dew points surging so high, especially for December standards. This is your day after Christmas, this December the 26th time frame. 60s would likely surge into the southeast Texas region, North Texas, getting all the way into Oklahoma, with an abundance amount of moisture coming back into play with this negatively tilted trough coming in off the west, with the developing low pressure center likely forming around the Texas panhandle. That could spell trouble with severe storms breaking out into North and East Texas, Eastern Oklahoma, those areas into Arkansas, Louisiana, going into that day after Christmas time frame. The Climate Prediction Center has already kind of highlighted kind of a bullseye, if you will, of the favorite area that not only could produce some heavier rains, but likely this area could turn severe. North, East Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern portions of Missouri, getting into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, areas of western Tennessee, while the West Coast gets inundated with heavy rains with that low pressure center coming ashore, all the high winds and the snow and the higher elevations of the Intermountain West. And then we'll be watching that low pressure center. These will likely be strong to severe thunderstorms further south. Further north, you'll have rain pushing in because the warmer anomalies will likely be taking over for a good part of the lower 48 by then. All of the lower 48 in December the 27th time frame, but that Christmas to New Year time frame looks very unusually warm for December standards. And also that will bring back multiple systems that could come back in the picture, with the Gulf of Mexico being untapped, with the higher dew points and the bowling ball troughs coming in off the West Coast, the warmth that coming in. You got a lot of dynamics coming back in the picture saying, hey, we could be looking at some strong to severe thunderstorms for that Christmas week to New Year's time frame. And then even the following week could likely be active as too, as we head into that first week of January, because still looks to be on the well above average side even still then, as we'll be still in a favorite area of time frame that could be looking at more severe storms being back in the picture for that first week of January. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch the next update. But before I take you before and after the storm.